officially welcome to our second Tech Talk. I'm super excited about the topic we're talking about today, and I want to give a bit of a context. So our Tech Talks usually are at the intersection of technology and the future of work, because at Jacob the Workplace, we believe that, in order to create a positive future of work for everybody and their desired future of work, it's necessary to come together in an ecosystem. That's what we're all about. But also the role of technology. Thank you, Stephen. But also the role of technology is that of enabling us to create a better future for everybody. And so while we were thinking about what the topic could be for the second Shaker Tech Talk, maybe dive even deeper into artificial intelligence, which was the topic for our first talk. Bilge and Imke, Bilge from Shake Up the Workplace and Imke from Cisco, that is, they were talking, we're getting a lot of feedback from the community about pandemic fatigue and just the Zoom fatigue and everything. Everybody's just strained, right? And so I will switch quickly to this one. I think this picture probably says it all and says it better than I could do it. And any numbers could do it. And a lot of people felt like that and addressed us. And so Bilge and Imke were talking, saying, actually at Cisco, we're doing quite a lot for our employees, because we strongly believe that if you have a resilient, you get a resilient company by having resilient employees. And also, obviously, Cisco is a technology company, so those topics kind of came together, and then we decided, okay, let's just have two awesome people share. So I'm jumping back to the first slide, if I may. So we have two amazing guests today who want to share both their internal perspective from Cisco, but also what is happening in companies on the government level in terms of creating a hybrid workplace during Corona especially, and the role of technology in it. And they will guide us through the three perspectives of tech, business, and culture. And with this very long introduction, I'm super happy to welcome Joel Curado and Stefan Leemann to the stage, and I pass the ball forward to you. And guys, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. Bilge will be managing the chat. If it's anything urgent, please let us know. Otherwise, we will have some time in the end where you can pose your questions to our awesome speakers, and we can chat until 11:15 for those of you who have extra time today. So without further ado, Joel, welcome.
Thank you very much. Before we start with the introduction, I just wanted to share the screen of the poll we want to do. And during the introduction, you can log into that and start that, because we want to hear some feedback from you before we start our presentation. So, Joel.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Stefan. Let me share. We will cycle a bit in this world here, passing the ball. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. It's actually, quite exciting topic, and it's exciting to be here in this conference. Isabel, team, thank you so much for the invite. It is a real pleasure to be here and sharing a bit of what we as Cisco see today in these three different vertents. But as you said in the beginning, my name is Joel Curado. I'm the country digital acceleration leader for the smart city vertical. So we at Cisco, we have many different functions, positions, but my role at Cisco Switzerland is to help drive innovation and investment in the smart city space and to create new projects with regards to our customers. But also, as you mentioned today, we'll be discussing as well what we also do internally a bit. Stefan?
Yeah, so my team is driving a lot of trainings, and over the last year we have been really challenged with the whole virtual environment with the world. And we learned a lot, because when we started, we just thought, okay, let's do the same like we do on site, just invite people and do a WebEx presentation, and then everybody will listen. That also worked for about a month or so. And then we saw drops of people joining, and then we started thinking about, okay, something we maybe need to do different. And over the last year, we really started to do different things. And one of the things we started to do is meetings with smaller group of people, and kind of like treasure hunt meetings, because we just believe it's very important that we keep the contact with everybody, and that we stay up with technology, and that we don't lose each other. But it's still very challenging. And now I'm very happy that today it is one of these broadcast events, kind of like type again. But we want to do it with some interactivity, and that's why we also decided to start with the Kahoot game as poll this morning. And so please log on to that with your web browser, with your iPhone, with your mobile phone. You can also use the app if you have it already installed. If you join, then put in this PIN code, and then whatever nickname you want, and then you can give us some answer after in the poll. So my name is Stefan Leemann. I'm leading the technical team in Wallisellen in Cisco. So my guys are doing the core technology in Cisco, so routing, switching, and data center. And we take care really from technology side that what you plan as customer, what our partners are doing with the customers really makes sense. And at the end, that we sell the best solution that's possible to the customers. Okay, so now I think it's time that we really try to play this poll. And the question we have in here, Joel came up with them from studies, and so we got some feedback from a huge community, and now we just would like to compare this with what you guys here believe. And then maybe we can also have a little discussion after, Joel, why it's different here now in this community to what we see, or maybe it's the same, like what we see anyway in Switzerland. So the numbers we compare here are the Swiss numbers Joel figured out from the CDA team. So it's not worldwide numbers. So it's really looking at Switzerland. So say give another 10 seconds and then we'll start this. So that's mainly the questions are about how do you believe what can be done from home, and how do you believe in the future it will work? And the first question we want to ask you is what do you believe, and I start this now, what do you believe in the future can really be done from home? So do we really need to go back to the office, or can we anyway just stay home forever and work from home and never ever will go back to the office? So what do you believe? So what is the percentage of people that believe that jobs we all can work from home in the future?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the study we did, and so this is funny now, came also up with 56% of the people, they gave feedback that in future we can do everything from home. Yeah, we'll see. And we will see today what technology we can deliver to help you at least to be connected, even if you're at home.
And it varies, Stefan, but we'll also discuss those points throughout.
So then the second one is, do you believe that we will not return to the office at all in the future?
And if so, what is the percentage of the work will not return?
So the poll is pretty quick. We only give you 15 seconds here. It's fast. So also here, so our study also says 26%. So you can see here, most of people in here believe the same. But it's still interesting that in total, it's not 50%. It's only 40% agreeing with.
Maybe it's more than 26% of the people who will partially not return to the office.
Then we will see that. We will see that in the discussion later on. Yes.
So then a more entertaining question: what is the coolest way to connect with people?
Clearly virtual DJ parties, right? I mean,
yeah, I don't agree with you. So in Cisco we started to do virtual beer tasting and stuff like that, but then policy kind of like was maybe you should be careful with that. So yeah, most of us believe that all of that helps, and we will see some example at the end of the presentation on how in Cisco we do that. Okay, then the last one. So regarding business travel, what do you think? How many companies will not go back to the level of business travel we did before this whole Corona situation?
I saw the other day, Stefan, in Spain, Cisco Spain was actually doing a virtual jamon tasting session, like teaching employees how to cut jamon. That was special.
Okay, so 84% believe we will not go back to business travel as we did before. Okay, I'm one of the ones that don't really like that statement, but we will see how this works in the future.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So we'll talk about a lot of this. So Joel, please take the ball again and start the presentation.
Yes, thank you so much, Stefan. I was actually very happy to see that people are very wishful, like wishful thinking. And for instance, 84% was saying that they don't want to go to the same levels of business travel, right? And it is interesting. And thank you so much for the participation, because indeed, what we see and what we will share is studies that have been done at a worldwide level with regards to Cisco and many other entities, and also at a Swiss level here. And we will, from an agenda standpoint, we will talk a bit how the world has been changing, what's been happening, what are the current challenges with regards to the workplace, and what are we doing at the Swiss level, for instance, with regards to creating some solutions for cities and for villages, with regards to engaging with the government, with remote co-working spaces, with basically with the buildings. How are we going to work in creating new solutions so that when people actually go back to the office, they can also feel safe? And then also, of course, Stefan will talk a bit about the technology behind it that helps come together and create this collaborative environment. And of course, we will also mention a bit about culture and how we at Cisco, for instance, are working in many different initiatives to keep together from a connection and from a wellness perspective, but also from a transparency and communication. For instance, and of course we will mention that, but we will mention this from a business perspective, from a technology perspective, from a culture perspective. And as you can see here today, of course, change is constant in our lives. And in this situation with COVID, it's actually redefining how we work, from having to do same number of meetings, if not more per day, having children at home, having to do their homework and classes, from just connecting, right? As Stefan said, just connecting with people, keeping up the relationship. And we see this disruption appearing with this acceleration need to change and to create these new technologies, and how do we adopt them. And of course, for that, there's always an opportunity and a risk, right? And in this situation, we actually ourselves, we had to advance very fast in implementing these challenges across all levels of business. And we'll share a bit about that. I mean, what we've seen, and these are some of the questions that we placed on the Kahoot. I mean, from a business perspective, chief financial officers are going to make, remote work a permanent option, 54%, right? So they see the relevancy that you don't need to be in the office. Some companies are actually saying, let's change for 2 to 3 times a week, for instance. There was other companies, especially startups, for instance, in San Francisco, in Silicon Valley, that actually changed their office space as if it was a co-working space. And actually, they're saying you can work from home 100% and then come to the office for meetings when need be. Okay, and that's a business decision. One of the biggest costs that we see here, and CFOs are very present about the OPEX and CAPEX, that they are seeing that real estate in buildings is something that is incredibly high in terms of costs. So they also, of course, expect greater resiliency and agility from the individuals. So, and this is very interesting, because this resiliency and agility to me are very interesting words. Resiliency to overcome as a business that changes, that you're seeing through COVID, but also personal resilience, how I can continue to be productive from a culture standpoint, and then the agility to adapt to fast changes and to continue to go forward despite the challenges, right? And of course, last but not least, with regards to digital disruption and acceleration, 56% of CFOs are seeing that we need to make technology changes right now in order to position the company for a long-term positioning. So meaning from a sustainability perspective, from a business sustainability perspective, the changes that we do in technology now will impact the business later on. And they are looking into that and making sure that the right changes are happening. Of course, from a technology standpoint, then you have other challenges, right? You have an increase in cyber attacks from home. At the same time, service providers like Swisscom or others have challenges because they need to grow their infrastructure to accommodate the fact that instead of having everyone in one building, now you have everyone scattered. So in terms of providing internet access and a stable environment, you have to grow in that sense from cloud services. And also, supply chains and how you deliver products and everything from a factory end-to-end delivery to the individual at home. Of course, that's also been impacted. And we've seen that already even internally in that sense. So finally, from a culture perspective, there is a big focus on making sure that all employees are safe from a healthcare perspective, that we create safety measures from a return to the office policy, and that at the end of the day, people are just well. Companies just really want to make sure that their employees are productive, happy, of course, but above everything, just healthy from a healthcare perspective, right? Of course, 43% report a negative impact on staff morale and well-being over the last 12 months. It has been hard, and as Isabel mentioned, that on that image in the beginning, it's been very interesting to see the shift of basically being in bed and trying to do calls. I've not gotten to that point, but if I do, please slap me. I will not enjoy that, but I do understand that it is a reality for many ones, and of course, the decisions from organizations are, everything is being evaluated, right? And we need to make the right decisions from an ethical perspective. Many times, and we will discuss this at the end of the presentation, even for us at Cisco, we do these meetings, these global check-ins, and many times our management understands that we are all under a lot of stress, and they actually do give us, for instance, days off out of the blue as a reward or as a component to help the employee take a deep breath and continue then to go forward. And what about the normal? Can we return to this new normal? And as we said here in the questions from Kahoot, when will at least 90% of your workforce have returned to their usual workplace? And 26% say never, right? And that was one of the questions. So it has been ever changing, right? But we are seeing that shift, and that impacts the business in a positive way, but also that creates different needs for changes. With regards to business travel, they're already saying that half of the business travel, 51%, will be reduced, which is great because people do understand the need to be more productive, to spend less time in the airplanes. Relationships are important. You need to be there on site many times to talk to people, but there's also here an adjustment in terms of how do you do it. And of course, 75% believe that we are in an acceleration mode for digital transformation. And that's important, as I mentioned before, for the business sustainability aspect of everyday life. Okay. So, before we would say that remote workforce was, a small percentage and the office workplace was something of need. Today, we are seeing that there is no office workplace. We're just basically all working remote. But, tomorrow, we see that there will be a shift. We don't know the percentage yet. We are seeing that it changes every day according to adaptation to the cycle, to COVID, and to how we actually go forward with regards to vaccination, and then from an optimization of the workplace. We will see that, but clearly there will be a shift. But what about Switzerland? So what is happening in Switzerland, and how can we go forward for this? One of the questions from Kahoot was that, 56% of all jobs in Switzerland can be done from home. It is a bold statement. It does vary from canton to canton. Some of these informations were collected from Cisco, from federal level, data points, as Stefan mentioned. But of course, you have sector differences, you have regional differences. There's another point on legislation. So basically speaking, that the federal government also needs to help the citizens in creating legislation that will matter and that will enable companies to be more effective in the way they position these types of remote offerings. Okay. And also from a public sector perspective, government officials are able to work, just under a third. And that's also very powerful, because on one hand, you're able to continue to provide services to citizens, but also at the same time, you can protect the civil servants that are working today by being at home, by taking care of their children or other risk level individuals that they might have in their families, right? So that's also important. We are seeing that companies like Cisco and many others that are tech companies, they have specialized services in urban regions, in the big cities. They're totally prepared. And for us, Cisco, I think that was no issues. We quite rapidly changed into home office setup because we were already kind of used to it. It does depend a lot on the industry and how you deliver what you need to deliver. In the finance world, in the insurance world, we've seen a lot of high requirements in banking, of course. I mean, we've seen high requirements with regards to cybersecurity, and that's also important, so that, for instance, in terms of the services that they provide to their customers, to their citizens, they can do so in a way that the citizens are protected. And that's also very important in any business, but more so in these types of businesses. And, the main cities as points of gathering, of points of, for instance, transportation, mobility, are the best ones that can also create workspace initiatives. And this, for instance, as co-working spaces grow, there is a need clearly to understand, if I can save time to my employee, or if I can save time to the citizen to travel, and they can be in a co-working space that has a good setup, that is really good, because that allows us to very rapidly connect and to engage with the teams. And then finally, last but not least, I mean, employees have tasted a bit of COVID, lockdown, quarantine, and they've seen the benefits of working from home. Not all the time, of course, but there is flexibility, and there is positive points in doing so. When we see at the federal and cantonal administration, we see the need also for conversions with regards to type of technology that will enable this, so that their employees will also be able to continue to deliver services, but also in a remote way. And as I mentioned, I mean, at the end of the day, we need to focus on creating legislation that protects the individual, that protects the citizen, but that also gives them good conditions in order to be able to be productive and do good work from home. Okay. Swiss government has mentioned 5 digital priorities, 5 priority projects: framework of the digital economy, smart environments, trusted data rooms, digital public services, and how do we implement digital policy in the COVID-19 pandemic, and how can we make sure that from a public health perspective and from a policy perspective, we can actually create a baseline that can help citizens continue to connect with governments, and governments continue to work 24/7. I mean, and we've seen this applied to all of these areas, right? In the side of e-government services, in the sides of how can we use the opportunity to reskill individuals to continue to grow and make sure that after COVID, because there is an economic impact, the people that are going through the situation can learn new things and then continue to be good, active members in society. I mean, at the same time, how do we renew our national critical infrastructure, or how we adjust it in a way that can be contained from a COVID perspective, to make sure that people are safe and secure, but also at the same time increase customer experience, decrease operational costs, which is also important. From a cybersecurity perspective, how can we continue to protect the population? This is also very important, especially if you're working from home or in these remote locations. And healthcare and education also as main pillars of applying these strategies to make sure that students can continue to go to schools, can continue to be connected, but also at the same time, if I have an issue, if I need to go to the hospital, that we can continue to provide a high standard of service. And these are some of the topics that the Swiss government is thinking about. These are some of the priority projects, and this is also how, from a COVID perspective, we are seeing that they are adjusting and adapting along the way. Stefan, over to you to discuss a bit of the next topic, which is how technology is impacting.
Yeah. So we believe now we also need to talk a bit about technology and what does this mean for the change we're in. And come back to, we had to go to home office. I mean, when I had to go to my home office a year ago, I thought, that's not new for me. I'm doing that since 20 years. But after a month, I thought, okay, I'm completely lost here. Because before I went to the home office and I knew, okay, I wanted to work on this document. I want to be concentrated on something. So I planned to stay at home. And then they told me, now you need to stay at home 100%. And you're not allowed to go out anymore. You're not allowed to go to customs anymore. And in the beginning, I was completely lost. So I started to change my work day a bit around. And then I have this step counter. And after the first 2 months, my app told me, hey, maybe you should reduce your daily goal. 10,000, you anyway never reached that. Maybe you should reduce to 6,000. So that's also was a change. So I started to go out for walks over lunch or in the evening and so. And that's a lot of things I just learned over the last year that I need to still continue doing some things that normally just happened. Because if I go to the office, I do my 6,000 steps anyway, because just walking back and forward. And then the other thing, my colleagues, my family always ask me, hey, what are you doing? I mean, you're working for Cisco, but no clue what you're doing. And then after the first couple months, they told me, hey, you're just talking the whole day, make a lot of noise and talk to everybody. Yeah, that's probably true, because in Cisco sales, you need to communicate with a lot of people and make sure that you can talk. And so what does this mean now for technology? So we have a lot of people working from remote now. And this is not only employees, it's also contractors, third party. Some have a corporate device, some have personal devices, whatever. We need to make sure that somehow this all works together. Then before the whole crisis, we started with IoT stuff, so everything was connected. This continues. And then in the past, we had our servers in the office. Now we started to use cloud. We use hybrid setups. So it can be anywhere. We use applications somewhere in the web, Office 365, whatever. What does this mean now? So the internet is kind of like our new data center now. So the cloud needs to be connected to us. The cloud needs to be connected the same way like we controlled it before. And this changed completely the perimeter. So before I knew, okay, I'm in my building, I'm connected to my network, and I know this is Stefan with his laptop, and I could identify it from location, so I was sure it is me, or it's me with my device. But now I can be at home, I can be anywhere. I need to make sure that you still have the same security level, that I still can connect to everything I need. And this is completely changed from behavior from the employers and also from the networking point of view. So the perimeter I had under control before, that was physical, the door, the batch system, that completely disappeared. And this is one of the huge changes we're in at the moment, where we're working with to make sure that this continues to work like it did before. So what does this mean now? For what customers are asking us? So anybody, any user, needs to be able to connect with any device, use any app from any location. It doesn't matter if I'm connected on VPN, on-premise, off-net. It really doesn't matter. because I need my application access, I need controlled access, I need to be able to connect to my customer data, to my CRM system, maybe with your own device, maybe with your corporate laptop, whatever you have. So this is what we hear. So this is what people are asking us. And now we need to make sure that we can deliver on that we are able to do this. Now Cisco, I mean, if you look at Cisco, we're the router switching company, as most of us, you know us. So we have these boxes, we have this thing that connects network together. In the past, this was okay because it was on-prem, so we, as I said before, we knew where we are. But now with all these changes, and there's a lot of changes going on, we're not able to handle this anymore like we did in the past. So all these boxes need to be automatically configured, connected together, and they need to be able to open new doors for people coming from somewhere else. And this in a secure way. So we need to have a security behind it. We need to be able to manage this in an automated way better than we did ever before. Because if we do it the same way like before, so I mean, if I asked before, I want to do a network change, I needed to open a ticket, then I needed to go to all the approval processes, and then I needed to wait for a change window. Then maybe 4 months later I could do the change. From one day to the other, everybody had to go home and work from home. If I need to wait for 4 months, then what do we do with the 4 months during this time? So we need really to change in this behavior. We need to be able to adapt this to the platform, to the network behind. And that's what we do now. And that's what our system delivers now, to really close this loop, to have the connection as we had before from anywhere in an automated way, so that we can change rules on the fly. So we don't need to wait for change windows anymore to change an access rule, as example. Then we have security on your end device, on the perimeter, on the firewall side for VPN connections, and also make sure that the cloud integration is secure, that really end-to-end we have under control what happens. And then what we also need is visibility. So we need to know what's going on, because in the past, from the network side, we didn't really know what happens. Or if you go to customer, ask, what applications are you using? So in the past, we never got a real answer. Now, because of telemetry data, we collect everything from everywhere and send this back to the management system, and then make sure that we use this data to make the whole situation even better. And this also closes the loop at the end to really give you a secure end-to-end network. So if you look now in kind of like Cisco terms, what does this mean? And Cisco, as I said, we have a lot of campus networking stuff, so switches, routers. Then we are in the WAN, so making sure that you can connect. And then on the data center side. Now, from the past, these were all silos. And now, because of all this automation and this visibility, this all needs to grow together. And today, we still are kind of like in the silo situation, but we do have some telemetry data coming from all the sites and bring everything together and give you visibility that you really are able to work with that data and to make it a lot easier. With the goal at the end, what I said in the beginning, that any user with any device can work with any application in a secure way. And that system really brings it together. We call this intent-based networking. And this is also kind of like a change from the past, because in the past you just configured your network, and then if you needed to change something, then you talked about the design and so. Now you just define, okay, I need Stefan with his laptop to use this application. That's my intent. I give this into the management system, and the management system makes sure that the end-to-end the connection is configured right, and the networking devices, the switches, the routers, whatever is on the way, has this right configuration. And this allows me also to do this on the fly and go away from this manual interaction we had before. So yeah, so some examples, what we use, how we do this, this work today. So if I want to do a collaboration remotely, so as my family said, hey, he's talking the whole day. So what we need for that is the communication equipment. And we in Cisco, so we use WebEx as platform. And then most of the employees, they have a video device at home. So my video here is coming from my video device. And this just allows me to have meetings kind of like one-to-one, like I'm in a meeting in a real one-to-one situation in a meeting room. Then this also allows me to chat with people, to have a secure communication. So this really enables me to almost communicate as I do in a normal on-site office environment. And it gives a complete flexibility because I can join the meeting from my desktop device, the video device. I can join from the laptop, I can join from a mobile device. And I'm not fixed to whatever that's available only in the room. I can really walk around. And that's what we also use often. So if I still need to go somewhere sometime. And if the meeting starts now, and if I need to drive somewhere, then I just can continue my meeting on the mobile phone, no problem. I just can switch it over and continue wherever I am. So that really gives you the secure remote collaboration environment with WebEx and the products around that. Then for the remote work, I mean, there is different options. So the first one, and I think that's what most of the people used a year ago, people just sending home. They just installed a VPN client on the endpoint on the laptop, and told them, okay, here log in and then work. Now this is easy and fast, but also has some disadvantages because you cannot really control what these guys are doing out there. That's why we also have hardware devices, so smaller routers, small appliances to give people home, and then you can manage them from centrally. So you could add this to the system I showed you before and really control the access so that only people with the right laptop are able to connect with different devices. Then you also can enable that they can locally print at home. And this is also all difficult if you only use a VPN connection. With a separate device, with these little ISRs, with the Meraki small appliances, you have a lot more flexibility. And then what's also important is that you have the security on the end device. And there Cisco with Umbrella, with Duo, gives you possibilities to really control what happens. And also gives you the visibility because, I mean, with Umbrella, it's mainly about DNS stuff. So if people work at home, then you have no firewall between that you can control as enterprise. So you need to be able to handle this different. With Umbrella, you're really able to do this because you can control completely the DNS traffic from any client to only to allowed resolutions you want to allow to them. And then also enable warnings. So in Cisco, we do have this enabled. So if I connect to a page that's not secure, then Umbrella tells me, hey, this page is maybe not secure, be careful what you do here. That's just working in the background. So it's centralized, managed, orchestrated. So I don't need to do anything as an end customer, or as an end user. I think this is very important and essential that I don't need to handle it myself. The company is handling this for me. The company makes sure that this works the way as they want it and that it really is secure. And now the last example I wanted to show here. Now, I mean, some point in time, we hopefully will go back to the office. And at the moment, it's the question, okay, how many people are allowed to go there? So is everybody allowed to go back there together? And do we need to control this somehow? And in Cisco, we developed an application, an app, where we need to register if you want to go to the office. And then we can see, okay, there's already too many people there. So before I go there, I know, okay, maybe today it's not a good time. But that's okay, that's for me. But now I also need to be able to report that. And there we have possibilities with proximity reporting to really see how many people are in the office, how many devices are around, and then also enable warnings. And there's also integration. So if maybe we would start testing very soon in Switzerland, that if there's a COVID outbreak, that we can warn everybody that was around me. And then at least we know, okay, be careful and you get information. And this is all automatically in the infrastructure. So you don't need something separate, something on your device. It's just your device that's anyway connected to the corporate network that gives this information to the system. And the system will at the end warn you if something happens. So the products below here is Cisco Wireless Network and Cisco DNS Spaces. With DNS Spaces, we really can do this location stuff measuring. We can real-time see how people walk around, how they move in the building, and with this really use this data to warn people if something happens. Okay, so this was kind of like technology-wise. Now, Joel.
I will definitely share with you the latest on that point. And actually, as an example, and this is a real example, just for you to understand how we have been preparing for this. As you can see from my background, it's not a fake background. I'm actually in the office. I am in Portugal, for instance. So I am in the Cisco Portugal website. Today, when I had to go to the office, I actually had to log into a portal. I had to book 2 hours max. It wouldn't allow me to book more. And I'd actually sent an email to my manager, and my manager had to approve that I would go to the office before I would go. And when it was approved that I could go to the office, then I had to do a virtual check-in in which I had to describe my healthcare points, if I was feeling sick, if I had a fever, if I was coughing, with COVID symptoms. And I would have to say, yeah, I'm not feeling anything, I'm good. And then it would allow me to go safely into the office. So we really do take care a lot of care and a lot of thought process in how we are working in order to enable the employees and the teams to go back to the office. And this is just an example, right? And for me, I thought, I really want to be in the office. I want to have really strong connectivity so that I can give the presentation correctly, but also at the same time, this is a great example of how we are doing things today. But what's happening in the government level? I mean, how for instance, e-government services are happening, right? And we've been working with the Canton of Jura, for instance, to understand how we can create and connect new services to connect experts from the government with citizens. And we started a few months ago, and this was very funny. We started the project in March last year, February actually, and then COVID came, and basically the whole project got delayed because we were working on a concept of having a digital kiosk in which people can come in remote locations, sit in front of that screen, and have video conferencing sessions with government officials. And that is just as a way to enable their own virtual services like taxes, with regards to your car and how you have to take care of your car issues with license plate or insurance, for instance, or other citizen services. And we've merged that with our technology in order to give a much better experience. But for instance, in this situation with COVID, then you had the added healthcare impact. So then we actually now think about the next level, which is how can we add our technology in the website so that the citizens can still connect with the government officials in order to create this interaction, to improve the interaction, to connect governments to citizens in a way that technology is in the background, but people are communicating, and that's what we want to do. And but of course, that's that creates some challenges, right? You need to create new governance models, how internally how people connect and what types of services they do. What's the technology element that needs to merge? And Stefan already showed you some of the architecture components that we work on the background to make sure that these things happen. And then, of course, a lot of iteration, a lot of adaptation in order to get to a point in which we feel it's comfortable and it's a solid production grade, robust service for them. So this is just as an example, for instance, what we're doing with regards to e-government services and connecting citizens to government experts and how that can help change the lives of people for the better. Government employees don't need to get out of home, or they can be more protected, and the same thing with citizens. Smart buildings, and as Stefan mentioned, I mean, this was one example that I shared today, and Stefan also shared with regards to the user experience of the employee to go to the office. Other things that we're seeing is, for instance, we are working with startups. One example is in Ireland, in which this startup leveraged our Meraki cameras and the AI algorithm to detect images. And they just take an image of the face of the person, for instance, to understand if the person has a mask or not. And if it doesn't have a mask, it sends a message saying there is someone entering the office without a mask. So actually, we see that can be applied to office spaces, to hospitals, to schools, to corporate offices, many different situations. And again, complementary with regards to what Stefan is saying, with regards to location analytics, with my phone, with the MAC address of my phone when I connect. I just need to have my Wi-Fi on, right? And the access point will kind of triangulate where you are more or less on the building, and it will give you like heat maps of the situation where the employees are. So that is also relevant information that we can leverage to protect the employees from being closer in this environment, right? And then of course everyone thinks about what's the monetization aspect, right? I mean, we're doing the investment. How can I position this? We've seen this with co-working spaces, right? And we've been working in the last year with Village Office, for instance, Switzerland's largest co-working association, in understanding how can we digitize workplaces, how can we create this enterprise-grade, robust service that anyone around Switzerland in remote locations can connect and continue to work with their colleagues in their environments, work environments, in a safe way, so that we can lower the cybersecurity risk, but also at the same time can enable people to be more productive. And those are some of the things that we think when we design these technology solutions, right? Because we need to think about the business, we need to think about the solutions that we are delivering. How can we use the data analytics to basically deliver much better, much meaningful data? And how can we also then look into the ecosystem? For instance, with Village Office, they use different co-working platforms, open source, to manage the community. For instance, as if I am going to work in a co-working space, I can say to them, hey, I'm going to be here today, and as soon as I log in to the Wi-Fi, there is a platform on the background that understands when I'm starting to work in the co-working office and when I stop working in the co-working office. And that is good for them with regards to monetization strategies. How do I charge someone that uses the space? But also at the same time, we have these solutions integrated with our wireless access points, so that the experience is much more seamless, and people don't need to think much about it. Again, it's all about the experience in what you bring. And of course, that's an added value for the co-working places, right? We do this with our access points, we do this with our video cameras from a security standpoint. And then if you think about it, I mean, because today we just think about video cameras as it's maybe monitoring something, or maybe it's just like, taking visibility of a space. But the reality is cameras today are not, or at least how we see it, it's not about trying to understand the space, it's what other elements from the environment we can extract. So from a privacy perspective, we are also always very careful. We try not to barge in with regards to privacy of the employees. Again, for instance, the example I gave with the startup in Ireland, it's about taking a picture and understanding a specific element in the face of the person, which is he wearing a mask or not? We've done that in the past in smart city environments with parking. Is a car parked on a parking space or not? So because the network, if we actually use a lot of video camera feeds, it clogs up the bandwidth, right? So then the whole network gets saturated very fast. If you use the camera of the video camera just to take a picture and then just to make a decision, yes or no, is the person wearing a mask or is it not wearing a mask, then the information sent back to the data center is just that. So it's not focusing on taking a picture of an individual specifically, but on the action itself. So these are some of the things that we're looking into and that we are carefully analyzing and implementing. But of course, with all the good things, I mean, from a technology standpoint, these are some of the use cases that we see relevant. But of course, culture is also very important, and how we make sure that the employees are engaged, and how we continue to have, from a wellness perspective and from a communication perspective, better environments. And with that, we will share also some examples, and Stefan will talk about that, life at Cisco.
Yeah.
During this couple of months.
So first of all, I just saw a very interesting question. So we're tracking everybody. So how do we ensure that we don't use this data or misuse this data? So how do we ensure the privacy? I mean, this is a really good question. That's something a company really needs to think about, and also write this in the policy, because first of all, people need to know that we track them. And experience we made is that the benefit of tracking people, the benefit we can deliver because of the tracking, is a lot greater than the privacy issue. Most of the tools, they have these opt-out functionalities, so that if you don't want to be tracked, that you can tell that the system, and then you're not tracked anymore. But it's always kind of like, you need to find the right level how you do that. But
Stefan,
there's no ultimate solution to just say, okay, here you have the privacy anyway.
I had that situation in Barcelona a few years ago when I was working on a smart city project. We implemented an early version of DNA Spaces, and we had that question from journalists and from people in the city, right? And the reality is every phone has a MAC address. It's independent from the identity of the user, and that is what is collected by the access point. So from a privacy standpoint, as Stefan said, you can always opt out, but the MAC address is an individual number that is not associated to you. It's not like Facebook that you will have a name and a picture associated to an account. So in that sense, there is already a high level of privacy. Okay.
But as example, I had a company asking me with DNA Spaces, I would like to send SMSs to people if I want to notify them. And it's something that's pretty difficult in Switzerland or in Europe. So I don't think we're able to just collect this and connect the MAC address together with the phone number and use this for everybody. Okay, so some stuff we do in Cisco. So we do have some connected sports stuff. There's this Pavelka global thing. Then we have one in Switzerland, Austria, Germany together. So every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, there's a guy in Vienna who makes some yoga and fitness with us. And that's something I never thought I ever would do that. And then a year ago, after a month at home, I thought, okay, maybe you should try it. And since then, I'm participating in that every Tuesday and Thursday. And I can tell you, I think I never was as fit as I am at the moment. So hopefully it stays so after we go back to the office. And then the pictures you can see here. So there are some from check-ins. So people that's on the next page from check-in. So people really try to also connect together. And the example here with the rock band. So that's in Portugal. Some Cisco guys, they play together in a band, and at the moment they still play, but virtually. And then in the middle with the hello, that's Lena. So next week there's Cisco Live, and I mean, this is my favorite event and my favorite party with all the people there. Now it's virtual, and we thought, okay, let's do something. So Lena will do live DJ at the Swiss party next week in the Cisco Live event. It's an experiment, so we don't know how this will work out, but let's see. And sometimes you need to take some risk and try something. And there was a question about my treasure hunt. So we called this Schnitzeljagd, and in the old official communication it was called Schnitzeljagd. So it went out in Switzerland to everybody, and then I got blamed for it to call it Schnitzeljagd because nobody knows what that is, because it's a German word. So we decided, okay, let's call it treasure hunt. And it is really what we did outside. So in the past, when I was a child, I walked from place to place, and then we had to do something. And what we did here is we took a 3-hour presentation, split it in 6 parts, and then took groups with 3 to 5 people and let them run to these parts. So for the presenter, then we had 10 groups, so the presenter had to deliver 10 times the same content. And I needed 6 presenters to do that. And each of the group went to a virtual room, and then we redelivered the whole thing again. With this, we also played a game. And so this made this very interactive. And the content, normally we would deliver that to 30 people in one way without a lot of questions and so. with this, we had little groups with Q&As with really good discussions. So that worked very well. For me, it was a big effort because I needed 10 people instead of one delivering the presentation. But at the end, it was a very cool outcome we had out of that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I just jump in here for 1 second, Joel or Stefan. Maybe you could jump more into the Pavelka challenge, because I think that fits very well to this image I shared in the beginning and to this feeling that we are having at the moment, or most of us, like this fatigue, this being strained, feeling a bit, torn between working, family, mental health. So maybe you could share more about that. I think that's interesting for people.
Sure. Stefan, do you mind if I share some examples?
You're Mr. Pavelka. You look almost same like this guy.
Well, that would be very nice. Thank you so much. I mean, because I was actually looking at these points and I was thinking I'm getting really good at the food boxes and joint taperos, not as much as on the exercise part, which is also very important. But indeed, I mean, when Cisco started this journey with Jesse Pavelka, he's a wellness coach. He's based in LA, Los Angeles, and he focuses on 4 main points. How do you eat and what do you eat in terms of being healthy? What do you do for sports in terms of sweating and how do you feel good with your body and how do you exercise? The part that is about think, it's about that headspace, component of mental health that for Cisco has been incredibly important in the past few years and addressed by our senior leadership as a point of support for the employees. And then how do you connect with people? And inside of each of these pillars, Pavelka does, I would say, like once or twice a month sessions with the employees, at least at European level, to discuss these topics, right? And these topics here are all about what do you do in terms of connecting to people, what types of sports. I mean, I've seen people doing like Zumba classes and yoga classes and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, I could try yoga, although I think I would be in a tough situation there. But also with the mindfulness and at the end of the day with these mental health topics, I think it's been very important. And I think that the team has also done a great job here. For instance, we have a challenge currently going, which is 1 billion steps. And you can get together with different team members all around the world. You log in, you create groups, and then you just do these engagements in which you have like a Fitbit or something or a Garmin, and you collect these steps. Someone asked if what are the costs associated with Pavelka. We actually don't know. This is an HR-driven initiative. So, I mean, you can always reach out to them, but they've been engaging with us clearly on this one. And, this is the second slide, Stefan. You want to talk a bit about it as well?
Yeah. So somebody just asked if we have a facility for hybrid meetings. So currently we're working on that. I would say it this way. We did have a hybrid meeting, but then we worked with an external company delivering that in a TV studio. What is pretty expensive, and we do have a green room, we call that in Wallisellen, where we can produce videos, and at the moment we're working on to make a little TV studio out of that, with the goal that we can kind of like have some hybrid events where we have some people on site doing presentation, maybe have a panel on site, and then delivering over online platforms. And yeah, besides that, what we do is we have weekly check-ins. So on country level, then we have global check-ins where Chuck normally presents, so our CEO, together with the whole exec team. Sometimes they bring in guest speakers, famous people, like the guy you can see here in the picture. So that's Pharrell Williams. Yeah. Then we started to do some random calls. I'm not so much in favor of that, but some people really like that. So kind of like just bring people together that don't know each other. Kind of like now it's time to dial in. Kind of like when you stop by the coffee and meet somebody you didn't know before. And yeah, the step challenge Joel already mentioned before. what's important is that if you do something like that you always kind of like track it and repeat it and bring it up always again. Because if you just bring it up once, like the step challenge, then people forget about it. So you need to repeat it again and bring it up every week or every month to remind them and really make a challenge out of it.
Mm-hmm. And Stefan, I mean, on the global monthly check-ins, I mean, with the team, we have Pharrell here. I took that print screen. I was like, this is great. We had like Chris Martin from Coldplay there, and he sang songs. I mean, he was like playing songs, right? I mean, we do have these guys, but they also talk about like charity events that they're doing with us on homelessness, for instance, in San Francisco, in the Valley area in San Jose, or many other activities like citizen challenges for everyone to get together. We actually downloaded an app called, can't remember now, it's Citizen something that aggregates many different charities, and then the employees can go there and engage. And it's very engaging, actually. I really like that. But they also bring medical doctors. They also bring psychologists. They also bring people outside that gives a different perspective of what's happening in the world. And for instance, many employees ask questions to these psychologists. How can I, can you share some tools on how can I improve my productivity? The medical doctors answer questions. We're talking about really professional people that they work for Cisco. They are fully aware of what's happening from a healthcare perspective. They provide ideas on the vaccines. What's the status? Should I be afraid of anything? And also, again, on the wellness perspective, they bring Jesse Pavelka as well to talk about the latest and greatest, and we just share everything as a one big community. And I think that's the really good point. On the weekly all hands, I mean, with our leadership team, I mean, our general manager Chris Ty and many other of the members there, they really try to give an update of the business as if we were in the office, but because we are separated, we miss that connection. So how can we get that approximation coming from a collaborative perspective, and that's really nice. Yesterday I got a random call from one of our colleagues. He was just trying to check up on me, what's happening. That was nice. My reaction was, is there an issue? How can I help? But then it was just that, so that was nice. On the team building activities, Stefan mentioned the treasure hunt. We had a mystery, like it was not, I've heard some colleagues already did escape rooms, virtual escape rooms. I don't know how you can do that, because if I can leave the room, that's fine. But we did try to solve some mystery murders. That was super fun. We did like different types of sessions, and we just got together as a group trying to solve who killed this person and why, and all the reasons. So that was very funny. And actually the team that was organizing the event was in Canada, in Vancouver. So, possibilities now are endless because of that, right? So that's really interesting. And again, I mean, as Stefan said, I mean, from a physical perspective, as you can see here, I mean, even the team tried to do paintings, like all together, team building activities, the marketing team doing paintings all together. I think they're pretty good. I think I would really be bad at those. And also things like, flower arrangement so this lady was doing flower arrangements, and people at home were doing also flower arrangements. So, those are things that on one side you're doing the activity with the team, but also from a wellness perspective, it's just really good to unwind, right? As Stefan said, it's almost like important that you put some slots on your Google, on your Outlook calendar, to go out for a walk, those 15-minute walk, just to clear your head, but also to do these activities with your colleagues. It's just fantastic, right? So, yeah.
Joel, maybe I can jump in. While I was following you, I thought, so I heard a lot of our leadership team is doing that. It's like a real priority for you guys. But then also, is there bottom-up stuff? I saw now the team meeting, the painting, but like what can I do as an individual in Cisco, either if I need help or if I want to do something for others and not being in a leader position. I mean, we say everybody can be a leader, but strictly hierarchically speaking, like what can I do, just me as Isabel or as Joel, as Stefan?
That's a really great question. I'll give you a couple of examples. Actually, the leadership team said, for all Cisco employees around the world, you will have what we call time to give and every employee has 5 days a year besides your vacation that you can take off and do volunteering activities. So you can work by doing, for instance, I do that sometimes. I do mentoring for startups, or I work with startups to improve their business model or to do something there. I know that people work in communities by teaching students in classes, like community classes. And, I think the Swiss team, Stefan, and correct me if I'm wrong, they also went to the mountains to do some cleaning of the woods, just to prevent fires, for instance. So there's a multitude of different activities you can do. And you are right. Every quarter we get stories in our blogs and in our internal websites of people doing really amazing work with regards to how they use their free time in the Time to Give initiative to position to give back to the community. We also have something called Cisco Foundation. For every hour that we work for a company, for an NGO or a foundation that is registered in the Cisco Foundation, Cisco gives per hour of work that I give, it pays that NGO. Okay, so there is a dual compensation. So the employee is giving his free time, but then Cisco is giving a monetary compensation as an hour per work. So that's how we do the matching of the donor component. So there's many different activities indeed. Stefan, you want to add anything?
Yeah. I mean, virtually it's pretty difficult for employees to organize something. So my experience was that my guys, they came up with ideas. So one came up, let's go to the Lake of Zurich to the spaghetti boat and just meet there. And that was cool, because that was completely coming from somebody from the team, not from the management and stuff like that really helps to keep the mood in a good way.
True.
And do you have a lot of, let's say, in the form of a check-in or in another format where you talk about really what's going on? We talked about this a little bit in the session we had with your colleagues way back when we were talking still last year about turning your camera on and being more connected to other people. Do you have these formats where you just like share, I don't know, like my mother just got corona, now I need some time to like help her get back on her feet, so like can somebody like take a share of my work? Have these like very open discussions, because I feel a lot of people feel a bit left out, or they don't know how to articulate that, because it's not in our culture to share this much, that we are kind of in a position that we need help. How do you tackle that? Maybe you as team leaders, how do you tackle
one of
that?
the things is the global check-in, where they always have these doctors and kind of like from company side to try to share as much information as possible. And then on the other hand, I really think it's individual for the manager, and to be as close as possible with the people, and also to show them. So I tell a lot of personal stories. So, example, Monday morning, we normally had our team meeting at 8:30. Now we start a virtual coffee meeting at 8, and then 9:30 the official meeting starts. And the first half an hour is really to talk about how was the weekend, how are you feeling, and stuff like that, and to share some personal information. And in the beginning, it was more or less a one-way communication from me telling what I did over the weekend. But now, in the meantime, people start to share more and more. I think this is a process that people just need to learn. Okay, I can talk about stuff that's in my mind and just bring it up. And then also the personal one-to-ones are very important, and that you spend some personal time, not only talk about business, about priorities, that you really give time to talk about the personal situation, and maybe also ask some questions, not just how do you feel. So really dig in a bit, and so that they open up.
Yeah.
So I have a ton of more questions, but as we're approaching the end, you guys, if there is anyone who wants to turn on their mic and also ask, I've been picking here and there from the chat in the meantime. Please do that. We'll be closing at 11:15. But I'm interested, maybe until somebody Or Ola, did you want to? I saw you, sorry.
I'm ready to ask, and inspired by Helle. Helle, thanks for questions on the chat. There is definitely the future that most probably will be hybrid. And also I'm thinking of, the inclusion we've created now when I'm in Switzerland, but I'm so easily connected to people across the globe. Let's say we return to the office and we want to live that hybrid experiences. Is there any thinking in your company already of testing those hybrid experiences and building for them for the future?
The most difficult thing with the hybrid is how to share the content. I mean, share voice and video, that works very well. And there we do work with tools like Miro as example. I can do this tech stuff online, and we also integrate this in WebEx so that it just can turn it on. So there's a lot of things going on in this direction. But as example, last week we had a planning meeting, and so we did this on site. So at the end of the meeting, we had all the walls painted full of pictures. Actually, I don't really know how to do this in a complete virtual environment. So some of the meetings I really believe will be very difficult to do online or in hybrid world. So there will be some meetings we really need to be together.
Yeah. Thanks, Stefan. And I think the other way around works as well, because if I'm on Miro or other collaboration tools, then everything is captured the minute we leave the meeting. Whereas when I'm face to face, what do I do with all these painted walls or written walls? So I think there is a beauty in both experiences, but thanks for sharing.
And as I mentioned at the beginning, there are some startups in the Valley already saying we will go remote, but we also acknowledge the need to meet physically. So like once a quarter, they will meet up together as teams to have that physical interaction and to engage. Yeah.
And that was also very interesting in Cisco. So San Jose has about, 40,000 workspaces. And 4 or 5 years ago, this was more or less dead. So all the buildings have been empty. Everybody worked at home. And then they started to change. So they renovated all the buildings. So they're really cool now, fancy with open space and so. And then they also asked people to come back. And especially in engineering, it's so crucial that people are together. They started to serve them food for lunch and for dinner so that they stay a bit longer. But just bringing them together again and work together on the same table, then the sharing of information, of ideas is a lot easier. So I really believe in that we need to have both.
Beautiful. I think that was an amazing closing, actually. So I want to thank both of you, Stefan and Joel, for being here with us today. And everybody else also for joining, for your questions and comments in the chat. And before we all bounce, we heard there is stuff going on, activities in smaller groups, exchange, and we will have that as well. Coming April 15th, we will have another Shaker Coffee in the afternoon at 4, where we just meet, no agenda, no registration. You just have to follow us to get the link, either in our Shaker community or be on our newsletter list or follow us on LinkedIn. You will get the link, you can join, and then we will break out into small groups and catch up with each other, exchange ideas, and how to, go through it. At the moment, this will still be virtual. We hope we will be able to see you again face to face. And maybe we have to find a way to organize one of those DJ parties as well. Let me talk to the guys after the session. Maybe we can do something there. And thank you all so much for joining the Tech Talk today.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.